So this is the first thing we're going to look at. It was sort of a photo merge thing. All right, so a frog, so it's like her tongue is a frog. Okay, it looks realistic. Looks a bit, you know, yeah, I know. Remember that ad on TV for the beer that had the tongue, you know, hopping around? That just, you know, gave me the creeps whenever I saw it. All right, but that's the end result, okay, of what we're going to be doing. All right, so let's open some images. So if you have a look on the P drive. In the source photos folder, and there's one with a frog and a tongue. Those two images are the ones we want. Yep, so it's the two JPEG ones. That one, I should probably have renamed that one, but anyway. All right, so we've got our two images. Has everyone got those? Hello, come in. Yep, everyone's found those two images. All right, so to start with, we just want to drag the frog onto the tongue thing. We could, you know, start it in a new document. Doesn't really matter because this one, it's going to be the same size as that's going to be our base image, the tongue picture. So we'll just use that and then save it as a Photoshop file. Okay, so you can just drag that across. Now the first thing we want to do is to get rid of that white background. So very easy, we can just use the magic wand tool for that. Okay, so if you remember where the magic wand tool is, it's the fourth one down on the toolbar there. Looks like a fairy wand, so you can just click in the white area and we can just delete that. We're not going to worry about layer masks for this thing because it's just a plain white background. So you can just press delete there. And don't forget to deselect, which is Control D. Yes. Yep, and then just with the magic wand, you can just get rid of that white background. Now, just with this particular image, and I keep forgetting to fix it, I think there was like a shadow or something on the bottom of the original frog image. Notice when you get rid of that white background, it's still got a little line. See, can you see that little line there? So we just need to get rid of that as well. There's a couple of ways you can get rid of that. You can use the eraser tool. You can, you know, use a marquee and then press delete, or, you know, whatever. There's a few different. Oh, my brush is weird. I had something going on. Okay, so you can just use the eraser tool and go over the top of that. Oh, accept. I've got all my settings changed. There we go. All right. So whatever, you can just, so you could have also used the marquee tool, dragged it over and pressed delete as well. Just as long as you get rid of that little extra line there. So, I mean, if you wanted to use layer masks there, you could. It's not really, I mean, for that instance, you know, it's not a big deal. We're just trying to get rid of that background. All right. So just go back to your select tool. Now you should have your transform. Yes? Yeah, the magic wand tool. Okay, so it's the fourth tool down. Yeah. And just click in the white background and press delete. Okay, so you can close that frog JPEG. Once you've got that there, we don't need that anymore. Actually, I'm just going to open up the finished one just so I have that to look at here. All right, So if we compare that with the finished one, we can see that the frog is bigger and also it's in a different position. So what we need to do is rotate the frog and make it a little bit smaller. Now remember, when you're transforming something to make it smaller, you want to hold the shift key and drag from a corner, and that will keep it in proportion. Okay, none of this, going from one side and then doing that. Okay, I don't want to see anyone doing that. You can press escape there if you haven't applied that. You hold the shift key and you drag from a corner, okay, and that will keep it in proportion. All right, so we're just going to make it a little bit smaller, and also we want to rotate it. So if you just put your mouse outside one of the corners, you'll get that curved arrow, and we can rotate it a bit. And just position it so it's sort of on the end of the tongue. Mine needs to be a little bit smaller. And the body of the frog should be about the same width as the tongue. Okay, so when you're positioning it, just have a look, approximately. And so all the frog is on the picture. If the hand is going off to the side, then it needs to be a little bit smaller. And once you're happy with that, you can press enter and that'll apply that transformation. Okay, we all okay there? Yes. All right. So then the next thing, if we have a look at the end result, obviously it's only got the frog's hands. We need to get rid of the frog's legs. Okay, so we can either just erase them, or we can add a layer mask and delete them. Sometimes I can't remember whether I think I usually add a layer mask here, just because sometimes if you rub away too much and then you don't realize it, you can bring it back, sort of thing. So let's just add a layer mask to this layer. So at the bottom of our layers panel, okay, there's a symbol rectangle with the circle in the middle. That's a layer mask. Okay, so if you click on that. Now, does anyone remember how we work with a layer mask? Everyone's forgotten everything over the holidays. Okay, so we work with black and white or grey. So if we paint with black, that will get rid of, or that'll hide, something on this layer. So that's what we want. We want to have black on top. So have a look at your colours. Make sure you've got black on top. And we just want to use a paintbrush. Now, your paintbrush might be some weird shape, okay, like mine is, because we were doing shapes and brushes and things. Okay, so just choose a round brush and make it small. Okay, and we just want to brush away the legs, mainly the legs that are sticking out the side. Okay, don't worry about the bottom of the frog there too much. Okay. And you might find at this point you might decide just to reposition your frog a little bit if it's not, over the tongue, or, maybe even get rid of, a little bit more of the body or something. But don't get rid of too much. Okay, only just little excess bits. Okay, and just so, it needs to be a sort of a fluid shape with the sides of the tongue. Okay. All right, so the next thing we need to do is we're going to use the shape of this frog to fill it in with the tongue, the texture of the tongue. Okay, so we want to copy a section of the tongue. Now you might, for this one, let's just hide that frog layer just so it's we can just see what's on the tongue layer and just go to the background. Okay, so I've just clicked on that eye next to the tongue. Clicked on the background layer. So we want to select an area of this tongue that we're going to use to fill in the frog. So we need to use one of the lasso tools. Now probably just the lasso tool actually is all right. And that one you just click and drag around. We just want to select a section of this tongue. We're not trying to, we don't have to be accurate and get the edges, but don't select any teeth. Okay, we're just selecting a bit of the tongue like that. And then once we've got that copied, we can just copy and paste, and that'll put that on a new layer. Okay, so you can just do Control-C, Control-V. Now it looks the same here, but if you have a look at your layers panel, you'll see there's our little bit of tongue there. So we can grab that. If I move that up, that's showing me I've got an extra layer there. Okay, so what we want to do, let's bring the frog back. Okay, let's just lower the opacity of the frog a bit, because what we need to do is position this tongue sort of into the shape of where the frog is. Okay, so if you're on the frog layer, at the top there it's got opacity. I'm just going to reduce it like to, around 50% or something. And you might want to lock it as well, just so that you don't move it accidentally. So I can click on that padlock there. Okay, that's just for the frog layer at the moment. So that just helps us so we don't move the frog accidentally. Okay, so I've just lowered the opacity and then just clicked on the padlock for the frog. And so what you want to do with that piece of tongue that we copied, we just need to move it and rotate it so that it kind of fits in where the frog's body is. Okay, it's not going to fit the whole thing, that's fine, but just move it so it covers most of the area. Okay, so when you're happy with that, remember you can press enter and that'll apply that transformation. So is everyone at that point? You're not? You want me to come over? Okay. Okay, so I've positioned my extra bit of tongue under the frog. Okay, you don't need to resize it. It should be pretty much all right, but really we're just rotating it and putting it in that position. So press enter to apply that transformation. So now go back to your frog layer. You can unlock that. But what we want now is we actually want to get the outline of the frog. Okay, does anyone remember how we get an outline of something? Like if it's already cut out, how do we get like that selection around an object without like tracing around it with without the lasso tool. So it's already been cut out, so we've gotten rid of that's why we got rid of the background on the frog. Does anyone remember how to do that? Press Control, okay, and you click on the thumbnail of the on that layer. So there's our frog layer there. Okay, can you see where my thing is there? I'm holding the control key, and when you put your mouse over the thumbnail, you'll see like it's a little finger, but it's also got a dotted square. That's saying it's going to give you a selection if you click on that now. Okay. Now I just thought the only thing is, because we did the layer mask, we actually need to click. Oh, damn it. Okay, that's the opposite. It might be easier. Actually, I'm thinking now, yeah, with the layer mask, I actually applied the layer mask. Yeah, because it's still giving us the legs. Because remember, with the layer mask, it's only hiding that. And if I do it on the layer mask, it actually gives us the reverse. So what we do need to do in this case is apply the layer mask. Okay, so that's when you apply those changes permanently. So we, hid the legs, okay, but so long as you're happy, you have to make sure that, you look at your frog and, okay, I've got everything there, I haven't deleted a hand instead of a leg or, whatever, okay. So now if we right click on that layer mask, see we've got a few options there, okay, and the one we want is apply layer mask. Now you would only do this if you're, that makes it permanent, okay? It makes those changes on the layer mask permanent. So it would be the same as using the eraser tool to get rid of the legs in the first place, okay? But sometimes you want to use the layer mask just like as an extra step, just in case, you delete something that you're not supposed to or whatever. All right, so that's what we want to do. I right-clicked on the layer mask and then apply layer mask. Okay, so once you do that, you'll see the layer mask is gone, but the frog permanently has no legs. Okay. Does that make sense? Yeah? You guys okay with this, Erica? And yes, yes. No one sounds very confident. It's, This is pretty basic stuff so far, guys. So we haven't done anything that we haven't done before, all right? I think everyone's just lost their memories or something. Anyway, all right, so what we want to, oh, I forgot that, a lock on that. We want to get that selection around the frog, the shape of the frog. So we hold the control key and click on the thumbnail, and it has to be on the thumbnail, the little image there that's on the layer. If you do it on that, it doesn't do anything. But just have a look and your cursor changes. When you get that little dotted square, that's telling you you're going to get a selection around the outline. So if I click on that, see how I've now got the selection around the shape of the frog. Yeah? Yes? Is everyone okay there? Remember, you've got to yell out if something's happening, or if you did. Good. Okay. So we've now got the shape of the frog. So go to and we actually don't care about the frog anymore. So in fact, we can just hide that layer, that frog layer. We've still got the shape, the outline there, okay, but we don't actually need to see the frog. All right, we only needed it for its outline. So go to your tongue layer, the separate tongue layer. Now, can anyone guess how we might, be able to fill in those arms? We've got, most of the body is filled in with the shape of the tongue. What tool do you think we might use that we've already used before? No one? Okay, we're going to use the clone stamp tool. Remember, the clone stamp tool copies pixels from one section to another. So we used it when we did the photo repair, okay, to copy bits. So we're going to do the same thing here. So the clone stamp tool, okay, is this one here. Yeah. And you get a brush. Now with this one, because we've got the selection, that's going to constrain the brush. It won't go outside of that selection, okay, which is why we get the selection of the frog, so we can get the shape happening, okay. So the size of the brush doesn't really matter I mean, I wouldn't have it too enormous, but, you know, this size, I've got it on like 30, which is fine. Okay, something like that. And also the softness of it, I would, let me think. I wouldn't have a totally hard brush. Actually, no, it doesn't really matter because the selection is actually what will define the edges. So that's going to be a hard thing anyway. It'll really only make a difference where we're adding to where it's got the current bit of tongue and then we're adding to it. So a little bit of a softer brush is better because it'll blend it in a little bit better. Okay, if you had a totally hard brush, you're going to get a hard line where you start doing it. Okay, it doesn't have to be totally soft, but I mean, at the moment mine's on, you know, it's like 20-30% or something. Somewhere between 0 and 50 will be fine for the hardness of your brush. Okay. But that size, you know, is okay, around 30. You don't want a tiny little brush, okay? 20 to 30 will be fine. All right, so just make sure that you're on that tongue layer, okay? Now also, just something which I don't think I mentioned before with the clone stamp tool, you have got all these other options. Just check that these are correct. So your mode is normal, and you can change the opacity and flow. In this case, we need them to be at 100%, okay? But sometimes you can change them if, anyway, I won't go into that now, that'll confuse you, but make sure these ones are at 100%. But this one on the right-hand side, where it says sample, okay, you've actually got a few options here. So you've got current layer, current and below, or all layers. Well, in this case, it's, I'm trying to think, would it select the frog if it was hidden? I don't think it would select hidden layers, but, you know, if you had all layers and you had that frog layer showing, you know, you could be copying from the frog, which is what you don't want, okay? The current layer is, you know, the tongue layer that we're on. If you had current and below, it would also copy from the face layer, which again you don't necessarily want because you might accidentally copy some of the teeth or the lips or something, which you don't want either. Okay, so when you're using the clone stamp for you know, things like this, just make sure you have a look what this is on, because, you know, someone may have changed it. I don't know what the default actually is. I think it's just current layer, but you know, if you're trying to do something and it's not copying, you know, maybe that's set to the wrong thing. Okay, so anyway, so for this one, current layer should be fine. Okay, but just make sure that on your layers panel that layer 2 is actually highlighted. Okay, so what we're going to do you remember how to use the clone stamp tool? Alt-click. Okay, so Alt-click from one section. So, you know, I'm going to copy from a section of the tongue down here, for instance. Pressing the Alt key and clicking once just to choose my area that I'm copying from. And then you can move your mouse. And remember, it'll give you a little preview inside the brush, okay, of where you're copying from. You should see a little bit of the tongue there inside the brush. So now if I start just brushing up there into the hand, okay, I'm filling in the hand with that bit of the tongue. Now, it's very important, don't go over areas that are already filled in with the tongue. We only need to fill in the empty parts, okay? Because if you go over the body that's already there, it ends up looking like minced meat, kind of, you know, because you're sort of mashing it all up. So you don't need to, you know, go over bits that are already covered. Okay, and don't forget there might be some little bits on the head that need to be filled in. Okay, but mainly it's just those hands. Okay, but you might have, you know, the little bumps on his head depending on how well you've positioned the tongue and the frog. And you'll also notice there are some bits that are outside of the selection that we need to get rid of, so we'll get rid of those in a second. But for the moment, the important thing is just to fill in any bits. Oops, I've just seen a bit I need to fill in. Side. Okay, so how do we all go with that? Yes? No? Why are you always shaking your head, Manith? What bit do you need to go over? What, the clone stamp? Have you got the selection? Yes? So you just need to fill in the hands? So you just need to use the clone stamp. Okay, are you on the tongue layer? It's on your layers panel, that's highlighted, yep. So you choose the clone stamp tool. Yeah? Okay, I'm not seeing where the problem is here. All right, so Alt click, you hold the Alt key and you click, and that's where you're copying from. So you just click once to select the source area. Yeah? And then you just move the mouse, like you brush over the bit that you need to fill in. Yeah, only hold Alt and just click once and then let go. Let go of everything. Yeah? Yeah, so remember when you reposition the mouse, that source area will move as well, so you need to redo it. So if you want to try and catch up, you drag the frog into there, and we got rid of the white background with the magic wand tool. Oh, okay, yeah, but that's fine. Okay, so how are you guys going up here? Emma and Erica, are you at that point? Have you filled in the hands? Yes? Okay, good. All right, so we've filled in any bits that need to be filled in. But there are some bits that are outside of the selection that we need to get rid of. Okay, so probably the easiest way to get rid of it is, now again, you could add a layer mask if you wanted, but what you can also do is inverse the selection and then press the delete key. So inversing the selection means that it'll select whatever's outside of the selection. Okay, so instead of the frog shape being selected, it'll select the background. So let's go up to the select menu. See up near the top, it says inverse, or Shift Control I, but that's not something I use a lot, so keyboard short, I don't really use the keyboard shortcut for that, but if you select inverse, you'll now see, so the frog still has a selection around it, but so does the edge of the photo, which means everything outside of the frog is actually selected. So at this point, you could just press the delete key and it'll get rid of any little bits that are outside that. Okay, so if I just press the delete key, it just got rid of those little lumpy bits that were outside. Okay, do you want me to do that bit again? No? Okay, we're right. Yes, we're fine. Okay. All right, so we need to deselect. Control D. Okay, so at this point, it's looking more like a frog. Okay, but you can see we still need to do some stuff to it. Now, one of the key things with making something look realistic when you're doing a Photoshop montage type of thing is light and shadows. Okay, and you'll find this when you add in photos for your fantasy scene. Oh, Joe, there's an assignment on the front there, just on the front desk here. Yep, just there. When you do your fantasy scene, and I'll talk more about that, Okay, but light and shadows are very important to make something look realistic. So remember the very first one we did the car and the landscape, so we cut out the car and then we added a shadow underneath it, okay, so it makes it look more realistic. All right, so in this one, and we can see in the one on the left, it's got a few little shadows there. I think I probably overdid it a little bit there, but you know, it's got some shadows there. So we're going to add in a little bit of shadows there. Now, this has got some on top and it's got some underneath as well. Okay, so what we want to do, now whenever you're doing something like adding shadows, remember you want to do it on a new layer. Don't paint on the existing layer. All right, because if we just painted the shadows directly onto the background layer, yes, it would look like it's coming from under the tongue, but you'd have no control over the opacity or anything like that because it's already on a layer, it's linked to another layer, it's already stuck on another layer, okay? So we want to do a new layer, all right, so click on the bottom of the layers panel, a new layer, and it needs to go in between the face and the tongue, so just drag it down. Now we should actually be naming these layers as well. Okay, and we can just, we just want to paint, same as we did with the car, we just want to paint some black, you know, a black shadow underneath that. So if we go to our paintbrush, and you just want to change your colour to black, and have a look at your brush, so probably a soft brush, or, you know, with some softness in it. What size? It's probably okay actually. I've got about a 20. All right. Now it will look really dark. Don't worry about that because we'll change the opacity and whatever. Just do a little bit of shadow. Now, the thing to remember with shadows is it's usually coming from one side. You don't generally have a shadow all the way around. Okay. So just think, well, where is the light coming from in your photo? In this case, it's, you know, there isn't really an obvious direction, I don't think. Actually, if anything, it's probably more on the right side, and I've done the shadow on the left side. But anyway, it's not so obvious. But if you're doing something that's, you know, you're adding something to a photo and there's already an obvious shadow in there, all your shadows would have to follow the same direction. Okay, so just paint a little bit of a shadow just around the edge there, not too much. Oops, and don't go into the tongue. Okay, I just need to get rid of that little bit there. Just, oops. Yeah, just around the edge. So Joe, what we did was we got rid of the white background with the magic wand and we just made the frog a little bit smaller and rotated it so it kind of sits on the end of the tongue there. Yeah, do you know where the magic wand is? It's the, looks like a little fairy wand thing. I think it's the fourth tool down on the toolbox. When you get to the hands, you might want to make your brush a little bit smaller. Okay, I'm not being too, that's, yeah, I've put too much shadow there, but I'm not worrying about it too much. Okay, but don't overdo it. Okay, so once you get here, yeah, I've got too much shadow there, but I'm not going to worry about that. Now, at this point, we can do a number of things. We can reduce the opacity of the shadow, or we could look at blending modes as well, or we could do a combination. Okay, so if we have a look at some blending modes, remember the blending modes are at the top of your layers panel where it says normal at the moment. Actually, I don't know. I think probably opacity is better because I don't know, it depends what sort of look you want actually. Overlay, you can see a bit of the shadow and it kind of looks more skin coloured, you know, so it might look more natural. The one I've got on the left side, I think I've just changed the, actually, why don't I look at it? shadows. Yeah, I just reduced the opacity and I had it on the same blending mode, but you know, it depends what sort of look you want. Okay, so I might just have a look at reducing the opacity. See, when you do reduce the opacity, it's still got that grey kind of look. So, I don't know. I might leave this one on overlay and maybe add a bit more shadow. Yeah, when you've got the overlay, it sort of adds a kind of a pinky thing. Anyway, so we can fiddle around with that. That's the background one. But then also, we want to have a shadow on the top, and that'll define the edge and make it look a bit more rounded. Okay, so it doesn't look like just flat texture. Okay, so we need another layer, another new layer, and this one will go on top of the tongue. Now for this one, we want to have that selection back again. Remember the selection, when we have the selection, that'll confine the shape to that selection. And so that way, it'll keep the shadow for the top inside that shape. Okay, so we can press Control and we can do it on the tongue this time. We could do it on the frog as well because they're basically the same shape. Okay, so I press the Control key and clicked on the thumbnail for the tongue. So we get that shape back again. Okay, and then just make sure you're on your new layer, and again, just paint some shadows here, just around the edge. And again, we will, probably this one will just reduce the opacity, I think. But we can try the blending modes and see what they look like. Okay, so don't overdo it, just do some along the edge. And you can deselect that. And so you can either reduce the opacity, see what that looks like, or try one of the blending modes. What's a good one? See, some of them will, like overlay for instance, kind of intensifies the colour, so that one has, you know, made it more red, so if you prefer that one. So it just depends what kind of a look you prefer. Okay, I mean, I don't mind the overlay one, that just intensifies the colour, or I might just reduce the opacity a bit. So when you reduce the opacity, it's still got the black, the grey, you know, kind of thing there. Okay, I mean, and that's pretty much it. You can add some extra the little glistening, you know, highlights there. You can use the clone stamp to, you know, copy some to another section, like maybe onto the hand or onto the head or something. So I'll go back to the clone stamp. I might copy that little highlight and put it up there. So I can just do that. Okay, so just, add some little bits to get that realism going. So we're going to do another one using the displace filter. So another example. So let's open. This time we want there's a shirt and a sign. So it's called displace shirt and displace shirt sign. So we're going to put a logo on a t-shirt. Okay, so if you want to open those. Yep, displace shirt and displace shirt sign. Displace shirt sign, yep. Yeah, you can save that if you want. That's up to you. Okay, so this one, so it's slightly different than the last one. The last one, the wood texture was the same size as the banana image, but this one we've just got a little logo which we're going to put on here. Same, concepts though. So what we need to do, the first thing we need to do is to create the map of the object that we're putting the thing onto. So in this case, it's the shirt. So we need to make a map of the shirt because that's the thing that's got the shape. Okay. All right, so what was the first thing we did? We need to turn it into black and white. So we can go up to Image, Adjustments, and Black and White. Just say OK there. And we want to turn the contrast up a bit. Now with this one, it has already got some really dark areas, so we probably don't want to make it as contrasty as the last one. But if you go to Image Adjustments, Brightness and Contrast, and then just have a look. So if you turn it right up, although I don't know. I mean, you can see when you make it really contrasty that some areas of shadow really come out that you hadn't noticed before. Okay, so you can get those ones in. It does, however, make some areas darker, like this crease, coming out from the folded sleeve there is really quite a dark crease, but anyway. So I'll probably make it around 80 or so, the contrast. So it's, just by eye really. If you're doing this, depends on the image. Okay, so we've just turned the contrast up a little bit. And then the last step in making the map was to blur it. Okay, so the filter menu, blur and Gaussian blur. And we can leave it at 2 pixels, that looks okay. So that's fine. Now with this one, it's a JPEG currently, but we need to save it as a PSD file. Okay, so we're going to do a save as and make sure it's changed to PSD. And just put the word map or something after the name of it so that you know that this is the map. So if you've saved that, we can close the map and then open the original t-shirt again, because that's the one obviously we need to put the logo onto. Now this logo, it's actually a GIF file, which for some reason they work slightly differently to JPEGs. You know, with JPEGs you can drag the layer across. Okay, it doesn't work with GIFs. You have to actually select the layer, so with the rectangular marquee, and just, you know, select the whole thing, and then drag it across. And I don't know why it works that way with GIF files. So I'll just do that again. So you just grab the rectangular marquee, yep, drag it around the whole logo thing, and then go back to the move tool and drag it across. So it's just that extra step. You have to select it first and then you can drag it. Have you got it selected, Joe? Has it got a selection around it? Use the marquee tool, so the second tool from the top. Okay, so you can close the logo file, okay, once you've got it in your t-shirt thing. Alright, so like we did with the frog, yeah, I think we just did with the frog. You can get rid of that white background, just the outside, not the inside of the logo. So then remember the magic wand tool. Okay, magic wand, just click on the white area in the background and just press delete. Okay, and remember to deselect at that point, Control D. Oops, what did I just do that? Now, I usually resize this as well. I just feel it's a little bit too big. It's up to you, but I'm just going to resize mine. So I would go to the Move tool. And you also need to position it. Yeah, I'm just making it a little bit smaller. Position it, you know, where you want on here. And actually, I think it needs to be rotated a little bit too. Now, it's a bit hard to tell because everything's on an angle. You have to put your head at an angle to see it properly. But just position it how you like on the shirt. Now, I will just say, just try and avoid that really dark shadow under the arm there, because that'll really skew it right out. So if you've got any really heavy areas of contrast, if you can avoid them. But, you know, obviously there are other little bits there, that's fine, but I just try and, you know, keep away from that one a little bit. So I'm just going to position it there. So once you're happy with that, you press enter just to apply that. Now it's very important that you get the positioning right before you apply the filter. With the last one, it didn't matter so much because the wood and the banana were the same size. The image was the same size. This one, it's a different size. Obviously, the logo is smaller than the t-shirt. But once you apply the filter, it applies it according to the position it's at now. So you can't apply the filter and then move the logo, because then the shapes won't match up. Okay, it's matching it up to the wrinkles on the t-shirt. All right, so it's important that you get it in the right position to start with, and then you don't move it after you apply the filter. Okay. All right, so are we all okay there? We've just positioned it how you want it on the shirt. Okay, so now we can apply that displace filter. All right, so let's go to the filter menu and distort and displace. Now remember I said if you haven't done one before, you know, you generally just go with the default and see what it looks like. So in this case, we'll go with this one. I personally know that that'll be too much distortion for this one, but we'll see what it looks like. All right, so choose your shirt map that you made, or you can use the one on the P drive that I put there. All right, and you'll see it's really got a heavy distortion there, which I think is too much. All right, so let's undo that. Control Z, and we'll do it again, and then now we'll reduce the amount of distortion. All right, so if we go back to the filter menu, distort displace. So remember these figures here, so that's 10 pixels. Let's make it 5 horizontal and 5 vertical. So this is where you get into this trial and error sort of thing. Okay, it's just a matter of guessing, you know, how much distortion there's going to be. All right, so choose the shirt map again. Okay, and that looks a lot better. And then at this point, remember, then you can choose a blending mode to blend it in with the shirt below it. Okay, so it's got the shape, but it still needs to be blended with whatever it's on, just to get the extra, you know, shadows and whatever. All right, so you can. Some will do different ones. Like multiply gets rid of that white background altogether in the logo. No, don't like that one. Soft light is quite nice because it gives it a faded look, and the t-shirt is already faded, so that actually fits in quite nicely. And so when you add one of those blending modes, like I've got mine on soft light, I can see the wrinkles, and I can see it's added in the shadow there because that's on the t-shirt. So that's why you add a blending mode, or you could try reducing the opacity. I'm not sure how well that would work actually, because then you'd be reducing the colour that's on the logo. But you can see where it's a lot more obvious on this one than on the banana, I think. You know, showing how the shape affects the logo. You can see those wrinkles, you know, where it's adjusted the logo. So you could use this, say you wanted to put a tattoo on someone's face, for instance, okay? So you could do the same thing. So you could do a map of the person's face and then put, you know, position the tattoo, and it would mold it to the shape of their face. So that's, you know, one thing you could do. You could probably try putting a face on a tree or something. Okay, in that case you would do a map of the tree because that's got the shape, and then you'd put the face on it. I don't know how well that would work, but you could try it. You know, but all sorts of things like that. That's what you would use this kind of filter for. Okay, when you're trying to get, you know, put a tag. Like I said, you could put a you had a photo of a person and like a stone texture. You could try and make them into a statue. Okay, so that was just a really, you know, simple one there. Now I have recorded this.